Good afternoon and good evening to our audience from all around the world to this ninth edition of Perspectives, the Leadership Fireside Chat webinar series, where I'm speaking to eminent leaders across the travel and hospitality space on their personal journeys, views on the current crisis, and how do they see the future unfold. My name is Apurv Chamaria. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer at RateGain, and joining me is a dear friend, Mr. Debojo Maharshi, who's the Chief Marketing Officer at SpiceJet. We are delighted to host Debojo for this fireside chat, which has seen more than 500 registrations. Debojo is a successful entrepreneur who founded a company at the young age of 26 years in the area of digital consulting and offered turnkey solutions to clients operating in sectors as diverse as education, e-governance, human capital, and travel. He also went on to head the marketing function for the organizing committee at the Commonwealth Games, which was a massive success. Debojo has close to 19 years of experience in marketing, advertising, brand management, strategy, e-commerce, and technology. He's a multilingual person, highly energetic, and loves to think out of the box. He's currently responsible for managing the marketing, product, and training at SpiceJet. He's also responsible for the Aviation Academy, which includes a cabin crew and pilot school. In some senses, he's a pioneer amongst leading marketeers in India, which are going beyond their functions and now managing multiple functions and a leadership role. SpiceJet is one of my favorite airlines. In 2019, it won the coveted ICWA award for excellence in cost management. And I'm sure this year that expertise is going to help them a lot. In 2018, it was awarded the best domestic airline at Wings India. SpiceJet has been doing a phenomenal work during COVID. It's operated more than 25 flights under the Vande Bharat mission and helped bring back more than 4,500 Indians stranded in UAE, Saudi Arabia, and Oman. It's also operated more than 200 charter flights, helping repatriate close to 30,000 Indian nationals. It's phenomenal, it's pivoted, and it's doing a lot of interesting work on cargo, which is helping India stay connected and essential goods made available across India. So Debojo, firstly, a very warm welcome to you on behalf of RateGain and the larger travel and hospitality community. Thank you so much for taking out time and being on the Fireside Chat.
Thank you, Apurv, and thank you for the wonderful introduction. Delighted to be part of this wonderful conversation with you.
So let's get the Fireside Chat started now. So you are no stranger to rebuilding trust from the ground up in the face of crisis at SpiceJet. I know before we went live, we were talking about the whole entrepreneurial DNA of SpiceJet, and constantly you are at the forefront of innovation, never giving up, finding a way in what is by any means a very tough sector to operate in. So from forced grounding of flights, you were actually the world's top airline stock 2 years ago. What role does marketing play in an airline like this? And what learnings can you share for many aspiring marketeers who are on the call?
We have been, I personally feel that I've been fortunate enough to be a part of this journey. SpiceJet, unfortunately, was almost shut for a day in December 2016. 16 December 2015, and that's when Ajay Singh immediately infused some cash and took over the airline. And let me tell you, he did this without even going through the proper due diligence process. The due diligence process was happening. The airline collapsed. So if an airline collapses, it's very difficult to revive it from that position. So he took over immediately, infused some cash which was required. 16th December, I remember, he took over. We were there, part of the team in Jan. So Jan onwards, one of the biggest challenges for us was, regaining the customer confidence. It was December, peak holiday period, and we had ruined, holidays of thousands of people. Lessors took our fleet. A significant portion of our fleet was not there. So what it meant was many such flights were cancelled. There were other challenges also. The government forced us to stop our future bookings. Our future bookings were not there, which meant further impact on our cash flow. At that point of time, for the first 3-4 months, our only aim was to survive and to see how we can, look beyond that phase. There were, I remember, the first, our commercial team did extremely well at that point of time. From March onwards, I remember from April 2016, we were the airline with highest load in the country. Our occupancy factor stood at 88.8% at that point of time. In May 2015, it was 90% plus, and from there on, for record, we have never gone beyond 90% till February 2000, till pre-COVID days. So, and it still is a world record in the history of aviation. Similarly, our engineering teams, our ops team, they did extremely well. Our online, our occupancy factor was great, but our on-time performance also stood from where we were. We were last. We were probably the 5th airline in terms of chart, but in 5 months we became the best airline in terms of on-time performance also. And on-time performance was something where our where our competitor had a significant positioning for the longest period of time. So replacing them was a big achievement for us. And kudos to the engineering and the operations team. They worked hard. The flight ops team, everybody for that matter worked hard. And after the first few months, of course, as I said, was all about survival. I must admit the entire leadership team, under the able guidance of Ajay Singh, did well to pass that phase. From marketing perspective, we started utilizing our digital tools from there on. The strategy was, to reach the audience that we intended to with the right messaging around the brand being back and without spending much. We went ahead with conventional CPC models, which ensured us billions of impressions without spending much. Our budgets were small at that point of time. We did hard negotiations. We had to make some compromise, but we made sure that we kept changing the creatives frequently so that impressions were served. And for just a minimal cost, we could achieve billions of impressions, and that helped us. We were at least seen across the board, be it on desktop, on your mobile. Those impressions were served. We did use a little bit of dynamic search ads. We did use retargeting in both display and search. After about 4 to 5 months, we took a chance and started releasing big format jacket ads. That was a big gamble. Print costs much. There was a huge investment that went on. We did, your jackets in Times of India, in Hindustan Times, in Hindu, in almost in every nooks and parts of the country. And that gave, consumers and customers a lot of, not only consumers and our customers, but our partners, our channel partners, our distributors. That gave a lot of confidence to those guys also that, look, it seems that they are back. So with that, we communicate, and there was something to communicate about. Our team gave us a lot to communicate about. We communicated about, our on-time performance. We communicated being India's favorite airline with highest occupancy. And of course, the new commercial, whatever the commercial teams wanted, the new routes, the sales, they were communicated well. So that is how, I think from March onwards, we started working on those campaigns after 3 to 4 months. And then we moved on to print. And then slowly, we started acting on almost each and every channel that was possible.
It's amazing. I remember those full page ads, jacket ads, which you spoke about. It was such a bold statement that time. And it just showed that this airline is so vibrant, it's here to stay, it's doing well. And I think it led to a lot of people trying SpiceJet for the first time that time and really positioned you as a market leader. So you've been a seasoned marketeer, from doing Commonwealth Games, which was marketing at a different level, and in almost one way positioning the nation as a nation which can really do world-class events, to actually running SpiceJet. How have you seen marketing evolve, and what do you think are the top 3 trends or new initiatives which marketers should be aware of and experiment with?
Apurv, I believe the essentials, I've been saying this, the essentials of marketing has always remained same what it used to be. You've got to know your customer well. You have to target your audience well. You have to understand your prospects, and your measurements must be in place. We have been speaking about measurements a lot these days, but these measurements were always there. Even for print, people used to measure how their print ads were doing. And of course, your creative team and your creative strategy will bring a lot of value to you. What has changed right now is how you communicate, or probably how you disseminate your communication and how you measure it. That has changed a lot. And I believe, three things you have asked, I would say, one, your data and audience management, and will create significant competitive advantage for everybody. Be it, anybody, any of these organizations which invest heavily on their communications, data and audience management will create significant advantage for them. Personalization and hyper-personalization with the right, UX. UX is a term which is very commonly used, but I believe with personalization and hyper-personalization, you got to have the right UX strategy, and be it in your own assets, be it in your own campaigns, campaign tools, be it how you disseminate. In both these things, your own assets and what you communicate, it's extremely important how you personalize and hyper-personalize your communication. Beyond that, of course, at this point of time, consumers are receptive to some marketing at this point of time. Be it you have budgets, you don't have budgets, but you have to keep engaging with your consumers at this point of time, and that will be one single one of the largest differentiator, how you react and how agile you are to the new normal. The new normal is changing very fast, and so marketers will have to react quickly and adapt to the new normal, which is changing almost every month. I see every month there's a new trend, so you have to react to that, and you have to manage that new normal absolutely quickly. And this also means that if you go at a micro level, it also means that you'll have to keep reviewing your digital strategies. How do you bid? You'll have to change your bidding strategies frequently if you have to optimize your budgets. I believe that most of us also have a huge ready audience, and it is absolutely essential that you optimize the use of that audience. For example, I would say today probably 4% of Indian are flying. Not today, I'm talking about pre-COVID levels. If you look at that numbers, we own approximately 20 million people we own as our audience. So that's a significantly large number. And I actually don't have to go beyond that. If I keep communicating to that audience with some basic investment on my campaign tools, that will also significantly I'll be able to shape up my perception. I'll be able to communicate the new normal to them. And for us, a challenge has been communicating the new normal to the consumers. That those numbers are small at this point of time. We are not flying with our full fleet, but still communicating the new normal, how you are flying, what are the things that you have to do, the entire journey that needs to be communicated well. So I believe what you own already, you need to optimize that asset, and you need to keep communicating, because that's almost without any cost. It doesn't cost much to communicate to your own audience, and most of us, we own a significant chunk of that.
Yeah, so almost 50% of audience. That's a massive thing.
Correct. Yeah.
So SpiceJet was the first airline to launch a cargo flight in India, and truly a proud moment to see private players putting all entrepreneurial efforts to save the business and trying to minimize the COVID impact. You also ran many other initiatives to engage the travelers during the crisis. So would love to get your insights on when did you first realize that a big COVID crisis is unfolding, and what were some of the early thoughts which came into your mind, and what was your response as a marketer to the crisis?
This cargo business was the entire conceptualization of this business happened much before. It couldn't have happened in a month or 2 months period. We have a dedicated fleet of freighters, the Boeing 737 freighters, and of course our team, our engineering team, the ops team, the business team, they reacted very quickly to the situation. Today, SpiceJet is India's #1 air cargo service provider. We have a mixed fleet. We have a mixed fleet of freighters, which means that we have, of course, we started with the Boeing 737-700 and 800, with freighters which had a payload of close to 20 tons, and now we have the smaller Q400 aircraft, which have a payload of around 7 tons. So what it does is that it has helped us in creating a hub and spoke model for our cargo business. You'll see that a lot of smaller cities, they have a huge demand for cargo. Let's say, cities of Northeast, they have a lot of demand. People do interact with me, but that I have pineapples in Tripura, I have fruits, I have oranges in Arunachal Pradesh, but I don't have that kind of volume. I don't have 20 tons to give you. 2-3 of us can give you probably 7 tons. And that is where these, we are calling them little jumbos. So so that is where these aircraft are coming very handy. So we are trying to create a hub and spoke model. This is just aircraft into freighters, the Q400 into freighters. We'll be doing more. We see a huge potential and huge demand for this, and we are in the process of converting them into freighters. Since lockdown itself, we have, if I'm not mistaken, our cargo team has added close to 30 international destinations, and these are starting from East Europe to Africa to East Asia to your Far East China. So they have created a significant network for our cargo operations, which will be immensely beneficial in the days to come. We call this arm as Spice Express. This is the dedicated arm of SpiceJet's SpiceJet's cargo business. And since day one, I'll tell you, there was a demand to carry one PPE suit. So the teams just carried one PPE suit from Delhi to Coimbatore. So that, there's just one suit of 500 grams, of less than 500 grams, which went in that aircraft from Delhi to Coimbatore so that production of those suits could start. And today, let me tell you, that's the hub. Coimbatore and south of India is hub. India is self-reliant in terms of PPE, in terms of PPE, production. We, a lot of these PPE kits were earlier imported from eastern countries, but now it has completely stopped. India is far more than self-reliant in this business. And I remember, and it's, we try and do our bit in terms of whatever we can. I remember in mid-May, we had a request, we had a call from one of our NGO partners to deliver life-saving cancer drugs across the country, not only in one destination, but in multiple locations. So our teams reacted quickly, and they not only delivered it to the airports, they made sure that, because we have a door-to-door arm, our cargo business, there are two sets of business. One is air-to-air, the other one is door-to-door. So they ensured that those life-saving drugs reached to the door where it was required. So in multiple locations across the country, those drugs were delivered without any charges. It was absolutely free of cost, a service which we offered. And during this time, the other important fact is that what we ensured is that in our small way, what we ensured that the supplies could be, the supply chain should remain intact. The supply chain in terms of farmers could send their supplies from one city to other, from India to abroad. And of course, a lot of medical equipments were imported from other parts of the country to India, various cities of India, and then transferred from one place to other through these freighters. So these freighters have not only helped us, your sail through this period, they've also helped in their own bit, by keeping the supply channel intact. Maintaining the supply chain of essential medical consumables, and wherever we could do our bit.
We're losing you, Debo. You'll need to get a little closer to the microphone and louder. Yeah. So Debo, this is fantastic. I wanted to get your perspective on, so every country and every company discovered the extent of this crisis at a different time, because we are in the travel and hospitality business and we have a global footprint. Almost end Feb, we started seeing the impact because bookings were crashing in China, hotels were closing down. So when did SpiceJet understand how big is this crisis going to be? And what are the steps you took from a communications and marketing perspective to ensure business continuity and passenger confidence?
It was, I think, from 15th March onwards. Of course, the crisis was perceived, but from 15th March onwards, I think we felt that, this is unavoidable. So the country was moving towards a lockdown, the cases were increasing. So, from 15th March onwards, we felt that, this is inevitable and we'll have to go through it. The biggest challenge at that point of time in terms of communicating was how you communicate, what are the next, say for a lot of people in fact had their bookings, a lot of people had their, plans. So how do you communicate to them that what is the next? So, so we had various plans for various sort of bookings. So that was, that was, probably that's what kept, us busy for most of the time. So in the first phase of lockdown, that how do you communicate to these people, that how effectively, that how to rebook, how to use their credit, how can they successfully use it. So that's what I think, and we had to engage, and there was a call overflow. So we had to, we quickly came up with a bot. We named her Pippa. So so that bot was mostly utilized for COVID related information. So I think mostly it was, managing that crisis. That's what kept us busy during that phase.
So a lot of airlines have had to rethink about routes and operations. So how have the operational routes where SpiceJet is flying changed from pre-COVID times to now? Maybe you've done something about your network strategy on Bharat, which is tier 2 and tier 3, as more and more people try to travel there or from there, versus India, which is tier 1, which still continues to be unabated COVID hotspot. So have you moved your flights around? And
of course, it was not only up to us, because there were a lot of restrictions. There were a lot of restrictions imposed by a lot of these state governments because of a lot of rules. In fact, the first 1 week was completely chaos. There was a plan which was again changed, which was again revisited. Then again a new plan was drafted because the government announced a certain policy. The Ministry of Civil Aviation has been extremely vocal about air travel. In fact, they have been through us these entire 2 months. They came up with a plan that you have what kind of fleet, what kind of percentage of aircraft, or what kind of your routes you will be allowed to fly. But beyond that, state governments had also imposed additional restrictions. So that made it really difficult. Of course, the plan was there are a lot of people stuck in tier 1 cities, a lot of people who were working, so all of them wanted to go back. So of course, it was but obvious that the movement was from tier 1 to your Bharat to tier 2, tier 3 cities, and then we didn't see much movement from tier 2 to tier 3 cities. But this is ever increasing. This is increasing as we are speaking. Every day we see a better trend in this. People are coming out, people are flying. But I believe the single most challenge out here is the quarantine in rules that we today have. In most of the states, what we have is if you have to let's say if you have to now travel to Bombay, if you have to travel to Mumbai, and if you have a return ticket, let's say which is within 7 days, then you are allowed to go there. You will not be under quarantine and you can come back. So people who want to travel to Mumbai from places where there is no restriction, let's say Delhi is one of them, West Bengal is one of them, Bihar is one of those states, you can always go there and come back. But think of a businessman, think of a person who wants to travel from Maharashtra to any other part of the country, even if the number of cases or the prevalence of COVID-19 is less in those cities, they can't. Because the moment you move out of Mumbai, let's say if I'm a resident of Mumbai, I can't, for all practical purpose, I can't move out even for a day. Even for a day, if I go out and come back, I'll have to be in quarantine because I don't have further plans. So states will have to understand, and I think we'll proactively take this up with the states in the coming days. That one, if you are giving some exemption for people to coming inside your state, be it 3 days, 72 hours, be it 1 week, be it couple of weeks. So you need to give an equal amount of exemption for people who want to travel from your state to other parts of the cities. Otherwise, people of that state, they'll completely remain, locked down. They'll completely, people who are there, businessmen who are there, travelers who want to travel, traders who want to travel, there are families who want to reunite. There are people who want to pay a visit to their parents. So they will completely remain locked. So we have to, and I think we'll, in the next coming days, we will speak with the state governments and try and see if this can be relaxed a bit.
Yeah, it's a very, very tough environment to be in, because you could be flying to a place which has no quarantine or nothing. By the time you land, maybe the rules have changed.
Yes. See, for example, Karnataka has changed this all of a sudden. Now, let's say states like Orissa. Now, they have their policies that whether you are coming into Orissa or traveling out of Orissa, if it is a matter of 72 hours, no quarantine. So that's what we are. All that we are asking for is that it should be uniform. It should be for both sides. If you go to Orissa, if you stay there for less than 3 days, you come back, there is no quarantine for you. Similarly, a citizen of that state, if he or she wants to travel outside Odisha and come back within 3 days, then there is no quarantine for them, be it home, be it institutional quarantine. So that's what should, and it should remain uniform for everybody.
So Debojo, airlines is one of the few sectors where pricing is very specialized. Like in a normal FMCG company, it would work very closely with finance. Maybe in airlines also you guys do it. In a lot of our interactions which we are having with revenue managers and commercial heads in airlines, all of them are saying we need to reconfigure the way pricing is being done. One of the most critical components was reliance on historical data when deciding on a new route, new airport, or even thinking about pricing plans. Do you think this presents an opportunity for airlines to look at new demand indicators? It could be weather, it could be zip codes, and opening up this whole thing about ancillary pricing Wi-Fi separately, entertainment separately. Any thoughts there?
See, I'll answer your first question. I'll take that first. India essentially is a very price-sensitive market, and and I think our commercial teams have done exceptionally well under the given circumstances in the last 4 or 5 years and stay ahead of the curve. I think we are way ahead in terms of our competitors. Be it the occupancy numbers, the load factors, and be it the overall revenue, what we call as RASK in our terms. But being a very price sensitive your country and how this market operates, I don't think essentially that's going to change by a large. Your teams will still look at historical data while they want to look at new markets, while they decide on new routes. I think they'll still go back and check those historical numbers. But having said that, there is an opportunity at this point of time where the brand value will take some more significance, in terms of what what kind of services you provide, what kind of safety measures you have taken, how much prevalence is of the safety factors that you have inducted in the organization or in your aircraft. So those things might hold some prevalence because your studies, your data, a lot of these surveys have suggested that people do want to pay some. Well, still the significant number is still saying that no, they don't want to pay more. But there's a significant number, say around 50-60% of them are saying that. But still there's a significant number, 15-20%, which is saying that yes, I'm ready to pay 10%, 20%, 30%. Of course, some of them would be even willing to pay 100% more. So we do see that there could be that shift. Apu, if you can come back on your second bit. Apu, you are on mute, I guess. Yeah.
Do you think my second bit was, globally airlines talk about being a digital airlines where one day ancillary might even be equal or higher than seat revenue, and pricing, Wi-Fi, entertainment, shopping, everything separately. And India is doing a little bit of ancillary pricing, but mostly related to seats. So with extra leg space, we at times pay more or stuff like that. But do you see with this whole COVID crisis, ancillary becoming a very big important trend in Indian aviation?
See, ancillary, for low cost, airlines are based on principles of unbundling. And, you try and sell everything separately, customize your offerings for your audience. You may want something based on, and what we're trying to do, when I told you about that at personalization and hyper-personalization bit. So what we're trying to do here is that we're trying to offer what makes sense for you. So for example, for a family of 3 traveling together, the requirements might be a little bit different from a single person who's traveling alone on a business trip. So, so we are trying to personalize that. And your ancillary revenue, of course, I don't think that ancillary revenue will ever be equal to your passenger revenue. But, the most important thing is that what the impact on bottom lines are very well, are very significant. So the way ancillary revenue impacts your bottom line is considerable, and that needs to be managed well. Of course, a lot of ancillary has been impacted at this point of time. Let's say all the airlines where the LCCs is typically LCCs under the normal product used to allow 15 kgs of excess baggage. But at this point of time, because of certain changes that we have made in how you travel, that has been increased to 20 kgs. So there's a significant hit on excess baggage. Similarly, seat revenue has gone up, but at the same time, there are a lot of new products which are coming up, and I think this will help us in the coming days. There are some exciting announcements also. So I think it will have considerable impact on our revenue, and at least on the bottom lines.
Fair enough. I think that's a very interesting perspective. So Debo, we spoke briefly before the call even started that SpiceJet is known for its continuous innovation, coming up with products that really offer customer expectations and yet offer value for money. In the post-COVID era, where the customer and traveler expectations and mindsets will change, how are you guys thinking about attracting guests, winning their trust, and generating revenue? What are some of the new initiatives which your teams are internally talking about, and whatever can be shared publicly?
At this point of time, of course, there are some of the things that we try to make the entire experience much safer. So, for example, we are trying to equip all our seats with synthetic leather seats. What happens is that any kind of dust or microbes or virus, they get attached to
Debojo, can you hear us? We can't hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Yeah, I think we all went on mute for some time. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Yeah, I'm saying, what we have done is that we have tried equipping all our seats with synthetic leather. With synthetic leather, what happens is that the amount of microbes, dust, it's not porous basically. Any other surface, be it your fabric, or something, they're more prone to the virus or any other microbe being attached to that seat. So what we have done is that we have tried and we are trying and equipping. I think at this point of time, we have equipped all our aircraft with synthetic leather seats. So, the cleaning becomes much easier. So we are trying to, we just did a beta launch of our in-flight entertainment, because at this
Okay, to our You're on mute, Debo.
it's getting me on mute.
Yeah, now it's fine.
Now it's fine.
Yeah, so that's a fantastic initiative, and I'm sure a lot of people would love to fly SpiceJet. That's very reassuring that the synthetic leather seats are easy to clean. And are there any other things which you're fundamentally changing, which make SpiceJet a more safer carrier to fly versus others?
Apurv, it's a completely new journey, right? At this point of time. Now, one thing I would like to share, which has been there also earlier, but there's a huge miscommunication around the cabin air. People feel that cabin air is stale. The person who is on the first row is circulating the same, he's breathing the same air what probably somebody on fifth, sixth, or probably the 30th row is. It's a complete myth. The fact is that it's one of the most cleanest form of air that could be provided in any form of transportation. There are, and the airflow is from top, from your ceiling to bottom, and it's a gush which happens. So the airflow does not, even if you are sitting on the first row and somebody is sitting on the second row, you don't breathe the same air. the air drop happens from top to bottom. In bottom, you have HEPA filters. These HEPA filters are same which are there in world-class hospitals where 99.9% plus of the microbes get filtered out. And then the entire air refreshes almost every 2 to 3 minutes. In an hour, the entire air circulation happens 20 to 30 minutes. So that's almost like every 2 to 3 minutes, there's a new breath of air, which is, you're circulated inside the cabin air. The entire travel, your entire journey is now almost contactless. Starting from the moment you get inside the airport, our airport partners have also brought in significant changes in the way, change the infrastructure which was prevalent. While you get inside the airport, there's Arogya Setu is mandated, and it's a beautiful app. You come to know the status of the passenger, whether he has come in close proximity of a COVID patient or not. There are various colors, that the color codes which are attached: yellow, orange, and red, and anything beyond green you are not allowed to travel. After that, the check-in has completely changed. Now your web check-in is mandatory. It's, we are still not witnessing 100%, but it's close to that. We are witnessing 95% from most of the cities, and 95% plus as web check-ins. And in some cities, we see a trend of 88, 90% plus. But but the average is still much more than 90%, and it's all happening through your own device. It's not even kiosk. We have disallowed kiosks also, because we didn't want want any surface contamination. Then how you step in to provide your luggage, all that has changed. How you board inside the aircraft, there are significant changes. We have PPE kits are being given to passengers. There's a full PPE kit which is given to the passenger on the middle seat, so he or she acts as a shield, so that passengers are not in contact there. The passenger who's sitting on the aisle, the passenger who's sitting on the window seats, they are not in contact with each other. At this point of time, we have even stopped our F&B services, so that there's absolutely no contamination. So from a transport perspective, I feel that if you're traveling by air is the safest mode one can think of at this point of time.
Actually, I learned this amazing thing that the air changes almost 30 times in an hour, and I must tell my parents. I think a lot of people had this misconception, but
a lot of people have this misconception. I hear that, because how can you think of, because if somebody sneezes by chance, then the entire aircraft gets contaminated. It's not like that.
It almost seems safer than homes.
Yes, homes. If you consider that there are a significant number of people, then it's much more cleaner, because our manufacturers, they claim the filtration and process filters out 99.9 plus percentage. It's not even 99, it's 99.9 plus percentage of microbes which get filtered out in this process. So it's an absolutely clean environment, much cleaner than hospital. Hospital also equipped the similar, they have the similar infrastructure, but the rate of infection is much more in that environment.
Thank you, Debo. So Debo, a lot of people, pundits, so-called pundits, are talking about revenge travel. They're saying there is a lot of pent-up demand, and the moment all airports, everything opens, the demand is just going to take off because people are dying to get out. What's your view on it? Are you seeing?
See, we thought of that pent-up surge, and in fact, what you are saying is absolutely correct, because if you look at data, and it was quite strange to see when we saw data on our own channels, when we gathered data through our partners, and when we work with Google very closely. And when we worked on your Google's data also, it showed us that the single most important destination for which people were searching was Goa. People were not searching for any other pair of routes. Even your first was Goa was on top for quite some time before during the last phase of lockdown. I'm not sure because I've not seen the latest trends, but Goa was there for first couple of weeks, and then was like your tier 1 to tier 2 cities because of obvious reasons. But I believe, there are, as I said, there are a lot of other restrictions which we have today. Your restrictions of quarantine, restrictions of your hotel not being opened up. Goa has opened up, but then again has restrictions like you need to do a COVID test, as fresh as 48 hours, But where do you get this COVID test done? Getting a COVID test done is, your next to impossible at this point of time. So only people who have immensely good network, either if you're not in a hospital, then you will be, and how will somebody get tested for COVID if he wants to travel to Goa? So that really seems to be a challenge. But we see a lot of these destinations are opening up, and I'm sure that people would like to move up. We are reading here and there that a lot of people are taking their cars and moving up, and I'm sure there must be some pent up surge in travel and leisure travel also. But to leisure travel to pick up, I think there is some time.
Debo, let me ask you the elephant in the room question. How long do you think before airlines in India would go back to their pre-COVID fleet utilization levels? Is it?
It's very difficult. The government has been extremely supportive. They've told us that we could go to 45% level very soon. But from our side, we need some demand to get to that level. And I don't see, and that's directly related to the COVID scenario in the country. So until and unless that becomes a new normal, or there is a plateau, or probably there's a sharp, not even a plateau in the graph, but I see until unless I feel that unless there's a significant drop, I don't see that happening, or the vaccine. So if we see that if there's a vaccine in probably your by October probably is the best possible scenario, then we might see that this may, but we believe that that post probably your October, we might see some significant rise.
Sure. Debo, in one of our past webinars, the Chief Commercial Officer of Pegasus, which is a European airline, spoke about the opportunity that airlines brand sites have to increase direct bookings by just improved communication and transparency in handling cancellation policies and stuff like that. Do you think airlines should invest in their own brand site and continue trying to get more bookings? Or do you think, going through GDS and wholesalers and travel agents is more effective post-COVID?
This has been, there's a significant shift in what has happened significantly. If you see the increase in numbers, there has been an increase in number. More and more people are coming to our website, our PWA, our mobile app, and converting there. But as of now, in the Indian aviation sector, these assets serve more as servicing and for ancillary at this point of time, because our OTAs in terms of their overall objectives, OTA's overall objectives and our objectives differ. We cannot discount our tickets and sell them. We cannot come up with your crazy discounts and OTAs for that matter. They have been their overall structure, their overall pricing structure have helped them to gather more your conversions on their own sites than us. But what you see in West, it's completely different. It's just opposite. In Western countries, you'll find that in US, in European markets, you'll find that 75-80% of conversions happening on their own websites. In fact, some of the countries have gone ahead and said that we'll only distribute through our own channels. We will stop all of the forms of distribution. But in Indian market, it seems it doesn't seem a reality very soon. But at the same time, what we are doing is that we are trying to understand our customers much better through our own assets. More and more customers are coming there post booking and converting for various other reasons on our websites, be it for ancillary, be it for other services, other add-on services that they want to include in their bookings. And of course, it goes without saying that you will have to invest on your own channels, on your own assets, and make them as agile and it should be free from any sort of complexities. That's one of the single largest reason why people drop out.
Yeah, fascinating. Debo, one of the things which happens usually during crisis is people always say that marketing is the first place where budgets are cut, and all therefore say free spends, and it's a very defensive way of looking at life, because we also say that when you see a crisis, this is the time to gain market share, and COVID is a particular kind of crisis. So because ultimately capacity is a constraint, and there are a bunch of restrictions you work with. So as the CMO, what is your view on it? So is this the time to run brand building campaigns which reassure buyers and travelers that SpiceJet is the safest option, so that when recovery happens, you get the larger lion's share of demand? Or is this the time to lie low and just, protect your revenues and reduce your spend?
So, Apurv, it's a little tricky situation. If I go back, what happened to us, before 5 years, as I was telling you, 16th December 2015, the first 3 months, the first 4 months, we were lying low. The first 3-4 months were all about survival. We couldn't think of anything else other than survival. We were doing tidbits, but we couldn't think of, massive campaigns. But once we thought that, yes, we can take the next step, we went ahead and we took that risk and we did. So that's what I think our strategy will be here also. At this point of time, we will, it's not, and one thing is for sure, it's not the time to lie low. You have to engage with your consumers. And as I told you, that we have a significant consumer base with which we can any which ways interact through various modes, through various communication tools. Social media is also one of them. So absolutely there is no lying low, and we have been very we have been aggressive in engaging with our consumers, be it on social, be it on our own, that 20 million that I'm speaking, that I'm telling you, we need to communicate them. We need to understand them better. We need to be more empathetic towards them, and understand their issues and probably react to them. So we have been doing that. But again, in terms of, we have been negotiating hard with our partners to see that how we can optimize our media campaigns or our media budgets at in the best possible way. And I think with little time we'll be a little bit more aggressive.
Debo, I read somewhere that government has now regulated prices for OND pairs, just so that no airlines does a surge pricing. So is that still valid, or?
It's still valid. There's a minima and maxima, and I think it's within. I think it's it has always been like that. When you see a lot of people have complained me that your ticket from let's say from Delhi to Bombay was priced at 15,000 rupees. I said it's because you booked D minus 20 20 hours or probably 15 hours, and just because of this booking, there are others who are paying 3,000 rupees or 2,500 rupees between Delhi to Bombay, and today the prices are such that it's the most affordable means of communication. You might as well travel by car, bus, train. I think there is no other means which is more cheaper. During COVID times, I remember people were paying up to in excess of 8,000 rupees from Delhi to Guwahati. People were paying 12,000 rupees per seat in a bus from Delhi to Chennai. Now, please understand, beyond that, there are a lot of other expenses that you have to incur and how unsafe it is. So, I think from pricing perspective, it's one of the most competitive market, and it's one of the cheapest mode of travel today you have, thanks to this, thanks to the entire breed of LCC carriers, which brought this change in the country.
So Debo, we keep reading about Indian government trying to create bubbles, air bubbles as they're calling it, between countries. Do you think a similar situation might unravel between states, where two states might end up creating an air bubble, allowing for safe passage and unfettered access?
I don't think between states that's going to happen. I'm sure between states, I don't want to see that situation that within a country it should happen. We have a federal structure, but still, I don't think that should happen. It's one country, and your free travel should be allowed from one part of the country to the other. That's an absolute essential right that you have, and I don't want any one of us to lose that right.
Completely agree. So Debo, right now, unfortunately, because of the state of the business, a lot of airlines are also folding up, and there could be an opportunity to buy distressed assets and really scale up your international operations. And is SpiceJet also looking at international expansion as you come out of the crisis in the next 2 years, 3 years?
Of course, we are looking at international expansion. As I told you, our cargo business has done extremely well, added 30 more destinations. And as the cargo business keeps on adding new destinations and keeps on adding new dots on the map, we also feel that there could be huge potential in some of these destinations. And as you said, a A lot of carriers have moved away. A lot of flights between port pairs are not there. So the commercial teams are looking at those those places closely, and I think we may have some announcements very soon.
I'm excited about that and looking forward to traveling you guys more internationally. So Debo, now we have like 12 minutes to go. So I'm going to ask you some personal questions so that people get to see a personal side for you. So given a chance to play, an opportunity to play a sport, would it be cricket, football, hockey, or tennis?
See, I played table tennis all my life. I used to play, I was a national player in table tennis. So out of these sports, what you're saying, I would love to play cricket. I played that a bit. So cricket.
But table tennis is amazing. I used to play it in school. So maybe we'll have a match once we get together.
Yeah.
So your favorite holiday destination in India?
At one point of time, it was hills in Manali or probably beyond Srinagar. But now probably, I would say the beaches, because, easy accessibility, Goa or, Havelock. These are some of the places I would love keep visiting.
Which is one airline other than SpiceJet around the world which you think does a good job and given a chance you would fly?
In terms of product and everything, one airline which we work closely with, and I'm very impressed with their entire product set and how they fly and how they manage everything, is JetBlue. The DNA seems to be very similar. They have done extremely well with their entire product, their entire network, and in terms of overall health of the airline and overall how they have changed flying in especially leisure flying in US, I would certainly recommend JetBlue.
Makes sense. Debo, which is the interesting book which you have read any time in your life or even recently, which you thought was amazing and which left a mark on you?
What I'm reading currently is With Four Prime Ministers. This is the story of one of my senior colleagues in Commonwealth Games. He was the CEO of the games. He served 4 prime ministers, as right from Mr. Debojo to Vajpayee ji. So very interesting. Very interesting. You get to know how things happen inside Prime Minister's office, which otherwise remain guided by your thick Chinese walls. So it's an excellent book to understand how files get unfolded inside Prime Minister's office.
I would, Commonwealth Games must have been, it was a mammoth. Your team must have been very big and coordinating. And, usually when you're running an institution like SpiceJet, over years, you build your team. While in CWG kind of a thing, you get the team together quickly. It's a time-bound exercise, and then everybody moves out. So would love to, hear your thoughts about when you're doing something where the team is coming together for a short period of time. How do you energize the sense of common purpose and really get them to deliver, because they know it's time bound and they will go their own ways?
Correct. Beyond marketing, if you look at the core, sports management, people who manage manage sporting events. Commonwealth Games, of course, was larger than life, was a sporting extravaganza that India hosted and organized, and the teams were there for most of the teams were there for a couple of years or more. I was there for a short stint. Again, as you said, come do your bit and then move away. I remember, it was just before 6 months when we had started, but before that, of course, the team was there. They were doing their bits. But and today also we are associated with sports. We are associated with Boxing Federation of India. Our chairman is the president of Boxing Federation of India. I also play my role in that, so these, when we hosted 2 major championships in India. We did the Women's World Championship. We did the Youth Women's World Championship, one in Guwahati, one in Delhi. So these teams, I would say that, wherever we have to, otherwise, Boxing Federation of India, the team is a small team of 10 people. But when such team happens, people from various parts of the globe, they join us. And they join us for a short period. And these are set of people who keep on moving. When, India hosted your football world championship, the youth under 17 football world championship. Unfortunately, India couldn't, your host under 19 and the World Clubs Championship. That would have been, very wonderful. But these guys are, bunch of highly energetic guys. They move from one place to other. Say for example, at times they'll be part of the league, at times they'll be part of the soccer league, at times they'll be of the badminton league, because the essentials remain same. Of course, there are sports related, and sports specific your professionals also. But other than that, these people keep moving from one part of the country to other part, one part of the world to the other part, and keep doing their bit in organizing these championships. And extremely energetic, bunch of people, extremely energetic.
I know it. In my previous company, we were sponsoring Volvo Ocean Race and Manchester United, so we saw that same energy. And
because there's no time, as you said, you got to work 24/7. You got to work at or 10 p.m., 12, 4 a.m. Look at your venue, look at your field of play, how the arena looks like, if it's ready for the next day's match. One match has happened, the next one starts, so you have to again get things ready. It's a very high energy,
high adrenaline flow.
Yeah, extremely.
Debo, we're nearly out of time, so I wanted to ask you for one last question. We both are in the same industry, travel and hospitality, and our industry is going through a very, very tough time. Hotels are shut, car rentals are not doing that well. Lots of airlines are flying below capacity. The RASK factor is not very high, and a lot of jobs are impacted. So would you have a message of hope for everybody on the call on Facebook on how should they think about their career in travel and hospitality, and a note of optimism from you?
Of course, for travel, and because of this pandemic, one of the most hit industry is, your airline and hotels and the overall, TTH, travel, transport and hospitality industry. But, in every adversity, I would say that there lies an opportunity. And this is the period when you can equip yourself with new skills. You can learn a lot more. You can acquire a lot of digital skills. This is the time to understand your customers, and especially for marketers, this is the right time and right opportunity to understand customer behavior. This is the right time to understand your audience, because the audience is thinking very differently at this point of time. So you have to do a lot of research at this point of time, understand your consumers and use your time well. And because beyond, because I don't think we will ever see such kind of period in our lives again if we pass through this.
Yeah, I completely agree. And thank you for being an amazing guest, Debo. We all enjoyed the conversation. And I do look for a cup of coffee soon with you and flying together.
Sure.
Thank you. And
thank
to
you
all our audience around the globe, we are signing off now, but stay tuned in. The Fireside Chat is going to be back next week again with the exciting guests. Thank you and stay blessed.
Thank you. Thanks.